I'm Amirah Zaveri, the producer of Viewpoints Radio. I recently spoke with Dan Giusti, the former head chef of the 2 Michelin star restaurant Noma and founder of Brigaid, a food service company made up of professional chefs working hand in hand with school districts to bring scratch cooking back into school cafeterias. Here's a short clip from our interview.
There are definitely a lot of chefs out there these days, particularly because restaurants have gone in this direction of really challenging themselves as to the food they create, that really do kind of resonate with this idea of working within a very small box and figuring out how to do that. So I think that's exciting for a lot of chefs.
Yeah, so the problem solving that you face in the fine dining industry is also applicable to the space
Correct.
like public policy.
Correct. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are a lot of hurdles in the way systems work, the bureaucracy of, say, a school system or just government in general that you don't necessarily face within, saying, working in a restaurant. But a lot of the challenges that we do face in a school, actually working in a school, the logistics, I mean, they're completely applicable. I mean, for what it's worth, it's the same thing. It's food service. It's just you have a different group of guests, you have a different budget, you're serving different types of food, but it's really all the same thing.
Yeah, except the guests are a little bit younger and a little bit more picky.
Yeah, I will say, the guests are a little younger, they're a little more picky, but they're also very honest, which, can be very helpful. I think one thing I always mention is when you work in a restaurant like Noma, you have people waiting a really long time to eat, and everybody wants to like it. And I think it's sometimes you don't get honest feedback in a restaurant like that. So that makes it challenging. When you get very honest feedback, it can be hard to swallow sometimes, but it does make your job easier in terms of understanding where you're at.
Going off that, what's a recipe or something that you created that you thought kids would totally love, but then when you actually put it out there, it kind of flopped?
When we first started, we were serving sandwiches and we were trying to really make them more interesting. So one of the sandwiches we did was roasted turkey with mayonnaise flavored stuffing and cranberry sauce. So pretty traditional combination in many ways. But the idea of meat with fruit was disgusting to the students. They were absolutely disgusted by it. So that was a surprise. And at the time, again, we were very naive and filled with a big ego, and we were patting ourselves on the back we're coming up with these cool things, only to feed them to the kids, and they were nope, just disgusted by it.
Yeah. So it's not only about how it looks or how it tastes, but it's more intricate, like the texture or certain combinations that are just a complete no-go.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, when you're feeding, you're lucky. And a lot of times, I would say a lot of the dishes we do, if the kids actually taste them, that, the way we are now, I feel like we've got a pretty good gauge on what kids will enjoy eating and not enjoy eating. But sometimes you can't even get kids to taste the food. So, and that might be based off of, right, the way it looks, but in many ways, it's the way it sounds, the combination of things that doesn't sound like something I want to eat. Of course, texture is a huge one, but even before they taste it or put it in their mouth, it's there's a lot of things. And also, too, as everyone knows, kids, whether they're younger kids or older kids, I mean, for whatever it's worth, adults as well are very, they're very influenced by their peers. So it's not uncommon that, and it happens differently, obviously, the different ages, but that someone says, one student might say this is disgusting or this doesn't look good, or they might just say gross, and then 30 other kids just decide not to try it just based off of that. So there's so many factors involved in if a kid will even try the food. And then even at that point, I think they're still very much influenced by peers. For example, you might have kids who eat something and they love it, but someone sitting next to them says they hate it and they don't want to sound weird. So they're like, yeah, I hate this. It's very difficult to get honest, kind of, filtered feedback where someone's really truly saying what they think and articulating what they think about something. And that's what we really strive to get in a variety of ways, whether they be through surveys or kind of focus groups, but really trying to get focused, articulated feedback so we can make appropriate changes.